There we go. Oh my. Thank you, Tino. Shout out to Tino. So, yep, this is Armchair Athletes, everyone. I apologize if you saw me just mouthing noises. I just made a rookie mistake. My mic was not plugged in. So, folks, we are doing a live draft and answering all of your questions as we field through the Christian Watson news, as we talk about Kadarius Toney and the fact that his stock is probably going to be plummeting. Of course, Jahmyr Gibbs and the lack of involvement he had. Of course, David Montgomery got the majority of the snaps. We knew that coming in. He's listed as the running back one. Dan Campbell stated numerous times that it would be more of an ease-in process. He would have limited action coming in. But we saw the same thing with Breece Hall. First couple of weeks, not much. Good to see you in here, Tino. So, Tino, you've got a question in the flex. Who do I start? Amari Cooper, James Cook, or Khalil Herbert? So, James Cook, obviously, taking over that running back one role in Buffalo. He is sharing the backfield with Damian Harris, who I think, he's somebody who's averaging 4.7 yards per carry. I think despite the fact that he's 24 pounds larger than James Cook, he's going to be more than just a touchdown bandit. It's also against a really tough defense in the New York Jets, interdivision rival. Of course, there's going to be some cancel out there, and that kind of applies to all three of these situations, right? You go with Khalil Herbert, you're going up against a pretty tough front seven in Green Bay, not the best by any means, but he also has to share the ball, right, with Justin Fields, with Deonta Foreman, with Roschon Johnson, who has plenty of pass-catching upside, and supposedly, Fields is going to show off his arm a little bit more. So you have to understand there's just less rushing upside there in general. Khalil Herbert's a phenomenal volume back, but he wasn't very involved in the pass catching aspect of things at all last year. So in this case, I'm kind of going to go by my rule of thumb for the most part if I feel like everyone is equivalent in value. And I'm going to take Amari Cooper for your flex spot, Tino. It's a wide receiver. It's PPR. You're going to get plenty of receptions from a wide receiver relative to somebody like Khalil Herbert. And James Cook really wasn't all that involved in the pass catching aspect of things last year either. I anticipate he will be more so this year. He'll be more of a finesse back who's going to try and slip free, obviously being smaller than Damian Harris. I always say you got to love technology. Absolutely, man. But yeah, I'm going to go Amari Cooper against that Cincinnati Bengals secondary. They lost Jesse Bates. They lost Von Bell. It's a new back end. I feel like they're a couple deep targets away from really exposing that secondary. But yeah, so the Christian Watson news, not the best news in the world for those who have him, but I do think it opens up an opportunity for Jayden Reed. I do think it opens up an opportunity for somebody like Luke Musgrave, who, while he is a rookie tight end, there is still plenty of opportunity for him. I was talking to a subscriber earlier about this. They were saying Musgrave is not going to be eased in. He'll be pushed in immediately. And I kind of pushed back by saying there is still a veteran presence in the pass catching category for Green Bay. You have somebody like Aaron Jones, who was second on the team last year in targets with 72 of them. You have somebody like A.J. Dillon, who was in the ballpark of 40 targets as well. It's not going to be complete bare bones, right? You are still going to get value out of somebody like Aaron Jones and out of somebody like A.J. Dillon. So don't just assume that Luke Musgrave is going to go in there and tear it up, even though that Christian Watson is banged up. Now, I was saying that before I realized that Christian Watson was going to be out of this game. I was operating under the impression that he was questionable because he was the last couple of days. I see Romeo Doubs is also questionable, so please monitor that. But I am 100% on the Jayden Reed train after what I saw in preseason. And again, this is not really a startable person. I don't think you should be starting any Packers wide receivers right now. I think in general, you just want to go and pick somebody up. Go stash them. They may have some value, and then you can use some trade leverage. Because in my opinion, when you have a rookie quarterback and the only real veterans on that team right now, in terms of the offense, in terms of pass catchers, are your two backs in A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, I'm just not the hugest fan of betting that Romeo Doubs or betting that Jayden Reed is going to have a phenomenal day to the point that you want to start them. But that's just kind of how I'm playing my cards. I do think if you're going to pick one of the wide receivers to stash, it would be Reed, because he showed out in preseason. And they're just banged up in general, right? Musgrave is not a bad move, though. With how thin this tight end market is right now, the Bears were one of the best teams in the entire league against tight ends last season. And the linebacking core is the one part that's actually a strength. They have TJ Edwards. They got him from Philadelphia. They have Tremaine Edmonds. Jack Sanborn worked his way into the starting lineup. So it's possible that maybe Musgrave doesn't get the most targets. Right, it's basically a rookie quarterback in Jordan Love. You have some phenomenal receiving backs, both of which know the offense. I've got to think they're going to get a lot of touches, especially early. Help them shake the nerves off. Not to mention, Green Bay ran the ball 44% of the time last year. That's one of the highest marks for that team over the course of the last decade. Joseph's in here. Good to see you, Joe. Who would you rather take rest of season, Gibbs or Montgomery? That's a tough one, man. I think it depends on PPR versus standard. If we're talking PPR, definitely Gibbs. If we're talking standard or even half, I might lean a little bit more in the direction of Montgomery, or at least say it's closer to half and half. Because you saw yesterday, David Montgomery, they're paying him $6 million a year, which is not chump change for a running back. 3 years, $18 million after his rookie contract. The Bears didn't want to pay him that. They paid him a pretty penny to be involved, not to be a complete backup. Joseph, I think if we just look at the prototype of last season with the Lions backfield, we had Jamal Williams getting plenty of carries, even though DeAndre Swift was supposed to be the starting back. Now, DeAndre Swift struggled with his fair share of injuries, so we have that factor as well. Yeah, Monty going up a little bit. We're just doing this, and then I'm going to show you guys my team. My worst to first team, it has improved quite a bit. I am not projected to score 20 anymore. I did spin a trade that I think was pretty fair for both sides, so excited to show you that. But yeah, Joseph, I think rest of season PPR, I definitely take Gibbs because of the pass catching upside that we saw at Alabama, and even just the outright efficiency we saw yesterday. But David Montgomery, in standard, I'm definitely okay with. He weighs 20 plus pounds more than Isaiah Gibbs at the moment, so I think he's going to get those red zone touches. Jahmyr Gibbs nearly had a touchdown. He slipped on the way to the end zone. So, it's still a relative debate, but I think volume-wise, Dave Montgomery is going to get more on the ground. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get more through the air. So standard, maybe Montgomery, half-point PPR. I'd call it almost a split, but I'm leaning Gibbs. PPR, I am leaning hard in the direction of Jahmyr Gibbs. Who did you get in the fourth? I went out and took Breece Hall. Oh, in the fourth of the other draft, I got James Cook. Efficient back. I felt like he was the best one left on the board. Yeah, I ended up getting James Cook, Tino, so that's my one quote-unquote good draft pick. I feel like I got a pretty good value, if I do say so myself. But yeah, Joseph, that's kind of my answer on that one. Good question, though. Great debate to bring up. I think a lot of people are really, in the fantasy football community, are really buzzing on that one because Dave Montgomery got 20-plus touches right out of the gate. But this is somebody who's been in the NFL, understands the speed of the game. This will now be his 5th year. The last thing you want to do is scare the crap out of Jahmyr Gibbs. Do not buy on Sky Moore, by the way. Holy cow. And this isn't just in response to last night. I've heard a lot of people just talking up Sky Moore, saying this guy's got potential. Look, first off, he's 5'10". Obviously a slot receiver. Didn't get a whole lot of usage last year. Just over 200 receiving yards. I think it was in the ballpark of 250. What concerns me about Sky Moore is that Juju Smith-Schuster is gone. Travis Kelce was out yesterday. The stars were completely aligning for somebody like Sky Moore going into his second year to do fine. I was betting more on MVS because he's a deep ball target. He did catch, I believe he was 2 for 48, so 6.8 points. Obviously not ideal. Sky Moore had everything go in his direction in terms of availability, in terms of Travis Kelce, the top receiving tight end in 6 of the last 7 years from a standard PPR format, being out. In terms of Juju Smith-Schuster, who was the other leading receiver, although he didn't even crack 1,000 yards because of the dominance of Kelce leaving the nest. Why would Sky Moore not have at least a few receptions? Kadarius Toney caught 1 of his 5 targets. I mean, it is just insane to me. I'm not buying Sky Moore at his value. I'm not at his value. People are drafting him. I have not messed with Sky Moore since he came into the league. I'm a firm believer of having someone prove it with a few exceptions. Obviously, I didn't buy in on Jahmyr Gibbs at all. I do think he'll be fine. Bijan Robinson, the prospect profile is absolutely insane. I'm going to go my double tight end strategy here. We don't really know who's going to be at the helm of this backfield, and I kind of like the Eagles' offensive line just a little bit. But yeah. Tino says, did I tell you how someone dropped Breece Hall for a defense? I picked him right up. If somebody is dropping Breece Hall for a defense in your league, Tino, I've got to be in that league, and I hope there's money involved. We'll just put it that way. Chris, do you think it's worth picking up a Packer receiver now due to the Watson injury or not? I mean, if you want to pick him up, Chris, that's completely fine. I'm not too confident in going in and slotting someone because think of all the different variables we have. We have somebody who sat back and watched who we know virtually nothing about in Jordan Love. And now we have Christian Watson, who is presumably going to get the majority of the targets out. I can't confidently say I know who's next in line to the point where I would start someone. But Chris, if you are strictly picking somebody up, Jayden Reed had a phenomenal preseason. Obviously Romeo Doubs, but he is a bit banged up. He's questionable right now. Luke Musgrave, I wouldn't mind grabbing because the tight end market is so shallow. So if you're really desperate for a tight end, that is a possibility. But Chris, I mean, wholeheartedly, transparently, I really do think that Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are going to get a lot of dump-off targets, especially Aaron Jones. He was second on the team in targets last year. I think the rookie quarterback leans on the veterans. The veterans happen to be in the backfield, and lucky for Jordan Love, they're both pretty good at catching passes and making plays in the open field. I don't think Kadarius Toney gets drafted in most, not primarily auto-drafted leagues. But yeah, I would say Jayden Reed is an interesting pickup for value. Because at the very least, right, he goes off, you have him on your bench, he goes off for 15, 16 points in PPR. And then all of a sudden, you're looking around going, I've got some value here, I can go and trade. Sent you the pick on Facebook. I will take a look at that for you, Tino. That is insane. Folks, leave a like and subscribe. And of course, ask any questions that you have. Christian Watson is out with a hamstring injury. We're buying in on Jayden Reed, not to the point where I would start him. I would love to stress that. Unless you're in a dynasty format where you are really desperate and you were looking for somebody like MVS yesterday and maybe he didn't perform and you stepped off. I think Jayden Reed can get a couple of catches with Christian Watson down. But honestly, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, I feel like they get targeted a ton tomorrow. They know the offense. They're the vets. They've been teammates with Jordan Love the last couple of years since he was drafted. That's what I'm thinking. We went heavy running back here. I honestly feel like the valuation of talent was just, or the value of talent available was pretty good. I sat back on defense. But that is okay. I like to stream defenses. If I can't get the 49ers or Eagles or Bills. And Arizona might be the worst team in the entire league. So we'll do that. Just a mock. But yeah, Chris, hope that helps, man. Cannot wait to show you my worst to first team. Again, I drafted all backups just a couple of days ago. Just a couple of days ago, I drafted all backups, and now we are here. I'm about to show you where we are. There we go. I'll just update the ticker there for anybody dropping in. We'll take the Jacksonville offense in that kicker. Not bad. 3 wide receivers out of the gate. Weighted back on running backs. I really don't hate the fact that I have Breece Hall and Isaiah Pacheco, despite the fact I went 3 wide receivers in a row. And now we will just go right here. 1 second, folks. I'm going to try and add this. Corey's learning. Interesting. That's why. Just to give you an idea of what we got going on. That's the team we're currently working with. So if we look at oh my. And yes, I hope you all love the name. Worst team ever. I was able to find transactions before. Recent activity. There we go. So here are the moves we spun. These are likely all me. Worst team ever. Okay. We went in and got Gus Edwards, back up behind J.K. Dobbins, who has played like half the games available. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. This is acting up on me. Went on and got Gus Edwards, backup running back behind J.K. Dobbins, who's been relatively injury prone. Evan Hull, that doesn't hurt at all with the Jonathan Taylor thing going on. I told you guys, anytime there's an injury, we are going to try our very best to capitalize on such. We dropped Josh Gordon, got Allen Lazard, the wide receiver too, kind of hoping to bank off of the chemistry between Aaron Rodgers and Allen Lazard. Rashad Bateman, kind of taking a risk there because he's also been injury prone. I feel like a lot of people on that Ravens team have been injury prone. But we got him. Travis Homer, dropped him for Van Jefferson, banking off of the Cooper Kupp injury. So Van Jefferson is the wide receiver one, although I feel like Tyler Higbee will benefit a lot more. Went on and got Tyler Conklin, swapped the Bears for the Jags, Drew Lock for Sam Howell this week. I think he can pop off against that Arizona defense and an offense that's going to be led by Joshua Dobbs. I like to play the time of possession card here. I don't see the Cardinals offense putting together a lot of long, grueling drives. Got DPJ, McManus. I've just been taking him a lot. I feel like Jacksonville and that wide receiving core is going to see the red zone a lot. Now, if a lot of those trips are touchdowns, it's going to bite me, but we're splitting hairs here with the kicker. Zach Moss again capitalizing on the Indianapolis situation with Jonathan Taylor. Got Jake Ferguson, new tight end after Dalton Schultz got a decent amount of targets the last couple of years. Brock Purdy is a backup QB for now. And then I decided MVS over Rashad Bateman the day of, once we realized that Travis Kelce was out, and I got 6.8 points out of him. Went out and got Tutu Atwell today. Kieran Williams for Patrick Ricard. And here's the trade, folks. Here is the trade. Right here in blue. I wanted to go out and get another running back because I feel like they are at a premium and you'll have some more trade leverage when you do something like that. We are in a day and age where running back by committee is so prevalent. So I already have James Cook. Went out and got Raheem Mostert. And these are people I just picked up, but they have value because of, what did I say, Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor. Here's your wide receiver one in Los Angeles for week one. And he could have wide receiver one status for a while because Cooper Kupp does not exactly know what's wrong with the hamstring. He went to see a specialist. Now all of a sudden he could possibly be on the IR. Van Jefferson could be the wide receiver one for a month or more for all we know. Zach Moss, it's kind of a looming situation with Jonathan Taylor as well. Deion Jackson could be slotted in if Zach Moss is out this week. But I was talking to the person I was trading with, Wes, made a good point that Zach Moss could be the starting running back again for 3 weeks or maybe beyond. We don't know if Jonathan Taylor comes back. He was asking for a trade. That's how this whole thing started. Now he's on the physically unable to perform list. Past the deadline. He's out for 4 weeks. 2 potential starters here for a guy who honestly is very injury prone. If you look at Raheem Mostert. And we'll go back to the screen. If you look at Raheem Mostert over the course of his 7 or 8 year career now, where he only has just over 2,500 yards in total. Last year was a career year, by far. 8 years. I mean, the efficiency's always been there. Could you imagine if this man stayed healthy? But he doesn't. He's played 16 games twice. So, as a shocker to nobody, I am using him as trade leverage, and hopefully I can get a good performance or 2 out of him. Because I don't think I have a lot of power by just saying I have Raheem Mostert right now. I do have a decent amount of power by saying, hey, I've got 2 starting running backs. We're not in the most confident place, but if we look at the team we had before, where I was projected to score 21, this is a vast improvement. Phenomenal matchup here with Sam Howell. Do I think I have a chance at winning this? Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I'm still projected to get blown out of the water by almost 30 points. Sam Howell could surprise some people. That's a great matchup. Matchup-wise in general, didn't have the worst things going on. MVS, I was expecting to get 1 or 2 more targets. Conklin, not in the best spot. That's not my favorite tight end because he has to compete with Garrett Wilson. He has to compete with now a revamped backfield. Breece Hall has come back. Dalvin Cook has been added. You don't make somebody the 10th highest paid running back in the league unless you're going to use them. Tutu Atwell had to come in and replace Van Jefferson. But West got a decent deal. He got a wide receiver 1 for the next few weeks and a possible running back 1 for the next few weeks and maybe even beyond, right? So that is what we're working with. I might try and spin another trade after this week, but this is going to sound weird. I'm kind of okay with what I have. Now, if Evan Hull somehow ends up with a starting role, or Kieran Williams, who's right behind Cam Akers, gets a starting role, or Jaden Reed gets a starting role, who actually I'm going to elevate. I feel like with Christian Watson being out, Atwell's got to kind of compete with Van Jefferson. And Conklin I'm more worried about. With Jaden Reed, it's kind of wide open. You're going to get a lot of dump-off passes. And I know I told Chris a little bit ago not to start him. But when you draft a ton of backups and talent is this thin, that might be a decision I have to make. Because I don't really have much else at my disposal. Question is who, right? This is a really tough matchup. This not so much. We probably do that. But I think it's come a long way. From being projected to score 22 points. I kind of like this team. Ideally, we go out and get our wide receiver next. Wide receiver talent is vast. 1 or 2 of these guys could drop 10 points. That's fine. I want somebody who's going to give me closer to 12 to 15. And I will probably use Raheem Mostert / James Cook in that deal. And then if you can tell here, I have some backup plans should Operation Jonathan Taylor get even worse in terms of the backups getting hurt. In terms of Zach Moss, who's already questionable, or Deion Jackson going down. I have Operation Baltimore here if J.K. Dobbins were to go down. And J.K. Dobbins missed all of 2021, came back last year, and barely played. I have Operation L.A. over here because Cam Akers lost his job last season. And now Kieran Williams is the running back too, and not Darrell Henderson. So we got some backup plans to fill in for a Cook or Mostert. But I think it's my plan to take Mostert and a wide receiver who does well this weekend. And maybe try and go out and get somebody around the top 20. I don't have anybody there right now. I'm not going to get a Devontae Smith. I'm not going to be able to get a Brandon Ayuk, at least right now. Very aware of that. But maybe we get a bit of an upgrade. It depends, though. It depends. If James Cook just snaps, or Raheem Mostert just snaps, and someone buys into it enough, that is possible. And that was the whole goal. Put ourselves in a position to have that happen. With the team I had before, I'm sorry, but Kyle Juszczyk was not going to give me any trade leverage. But we have some people with appeal now. Sam Howell's been going up. Here's the key, right? I got the guys in the green. And that's not a coincidence. There's demand here. High-scoring offense. I mean, that's a stretch at kicker, right? Phenomenal matchup. Indianapolis might score 10 points. You know, Anthony Richardson's fun, but the main source of offense was Jonathan Taylor. Tutu Atwell. Up one you go with Cooper Kupp out. Tyler Conklin, that was kind of just me squandering. MVS, I felt like was a good pickup. He just didn't show up too well, but those are the numbers we're going to see for a bit. This is only going to get higher. There's Raheem Mostert with Jeff Wilson Jr. going down. Again, just taking advantage of injuries. This is injury related with Jeff Wilson Jr. going down. This is injury related with Christian Watson. This was injury related with Travis Kelce. It didn't really pan out. This was just kind of a impulsive move. This is related to Cooper Kupp. The past injury risk of J.K. Dobbins. Jonathan Taylor. Elevation of a role. Cam Akers losing his job last year. That's all it is. Just paying attention. Brian, good to see you in here, man. This is Corey. Thanks for the fantasy advice, my man. Anytime. Picked Devontae Adams and CeeDee Lamb at the 10-11 turn. Nice. Picked up Hurts at 30 overall and Watson. Picked up Hurts at 31 overall and Watson at 30. Thinking of regretting that pick. Ended up going Etienne, Dameon Pierce, and Raheem Mostert as my running backs. Thinking I'm lacking on that front. I mean, Dameon Pierce, Brian, is phenomenal for standard or half point. He wasn't too involved in the pass catching game last year. We'll see what happens. I mean, Houston is kind of a dumpster fire right now, so maybe he does get more involved in the pass catching game because they can't be running the ball all 4 quarters if they want to actually start to bring together some wins. I like the Devontae Adams move, kind of. It's tough because it's a new quarterback. I think, Brian, Devontae Adams had the perfect situation last year, and things have changed since then. Last year, his old college buddy in Derek Carr, they had that chemistry from Fresno State, just had the ball shoveled to him. But what else happened? Hunter Renfrow went down. The run game was phenomenal to set up the play action. Now, Hunter Renfrow is healthy again. I believe Mac Hollins is now in Atlanta, but Hunter Renfrow is healthy again. They went out and get Michael Mayer. And Jimmy Garoppolo replaces Derek Carr. Now, I feel like in general it's a lateral move, but there's no college chemistry there. There's no favoritism. There's none of that. CeeDee Lamb I love. I'll take CeeDee Lamb at 11 all day long. He was wide receiver 5 last year in fantasy PPR. Brandon Cooks is his wide receiver 2. A little on the older side, he is nearing 30. An impressive wide receiver 2 nonetheless. And there's always injury issues, seemingly, with Michael Gallup. It's a high-flying, passing offense. I'm fine with CeeDee Lamb there. Hurts, the elite-level quarterback at round 3. Watson, I feel like might be a bit of a stretch. Again, I've been saying this for the beginning of the stream, Brian, but I really do think that Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon maybe even have a better year this year. They are pass-catching running backs working with a rookie quarterback, and the supporting cast of Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. I just named off 1 rookie and 2 second-year guys. Luke Musgrave, another rookie. The actual receivers are young. A.J. Dillon's kind of young. Aaron Jones is a vet. He's been in that offense for a while. He knows that LaFleur offense like the back of his hand. And he had 72 targets last year. That was before Aaron Rodgers left. This team ran the ball 44% of the time last year. That was one of the highest rates in the last decade. This team's already leaning towards the run when the operation started to fall apart with Aaron Rodgers in town. Now, new quarterback, a ton of young weapons. I feel like logistically you rely on your vets in this situation, and they both happen to be in the backfield. So kind of just looking here to see if anybody else is available. Maybe we can go out and try to trade. Oh boy. yeah. He's going to be on waivers now. I think in a lot of places. I don't understand this. I don't understand 11.7 points in any format. I don't. What did he do last year? What did Sky Moore do last year? I get he was exciting at Western Michigan, late second round pick, 5'10", 195. You better have phenomenal hands. You better be lightning fast, one of the two or both. He's just not getting targets. He was invisible. I guess he had the Super Bowl touchdown that he rode off into the sunset with. This is not somebody who was targeted last year. That's less than 2 targets a game in a 17-game season. I can count on 0 hands the amount of double-digit fantasy performances he had. Nope, I'm sorry, 1 hand. 11.3 right here against the Chargers secondary. If you, for some reason, have Sky Moore, I guess wait for him to have a couple of receptions, maybe 6 or 7 points, get the believers back. I've never understood it. I've never understood it. Go out and get Jayden Reed right now. Maybe it's unknown, but there's a vacancy with Christian Watson down. Robert Tunyon's gone. Allen Lazard is gone. It could be anybody's, and that's how it was yesterday. Travis Kelce was down. Juju Smith-Schuster was gone. Is gone. I mean, Sky Moore does not get thrown to. And he doesn't take advantage of the targets. I mean, these guys were not on the same page. I'm not messing with this. I'm not. I refuse to. Why is he owned in... This is so high. We can go on waivers right now, and I will give you 5 other wide receivers I would take over Sky Moore. 21%. Let's take Paris Campbell coming off of his career year. Was it phenomenal? No, but it was 600 yards on 91 targets, 3 times the amount of targets that Sky Moore got. Okay, there's one. Rashad Bateman, lots of injuries. We still have some upside here for sure. He's owned in way less. And at least we have more of a sample size. Big play target last year. Actually, his first couple of games, in his first 3 games, he had 200 yards. There's 2. Okay. Rashee Rice after yesterday. Nothing crazy, but a decent amount of targets. Caught the ball a couple of times. I won't save KJ Osborne. Again, 85%. I just need to find a couple other people. And I'm not having a very hard time here. Who are owned at a lower rate. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster is owned in less leagues. He is literally listed as the wide receiver 1 for New England. Is it a glorious offense? No. But he was a 1,000-yard receiver at one point. I don't expect 900 yards from him last year. I think he will see a downtick in production. There's another one. Adam Thielen. The listed wide receiver 1 who caught the first pass of the preseason from Bryce Young and also caught his first touchdown. And then I'll take Quentin Johnson in that high-flying offense. I'll even take Treylon Burks. And, honestly, he was kind of a letdown because of the injuries. But he had a lot of yards of separation. Big play upside. I mean, he's a sophomore. He had a better year. Not by much, but I don't understand the Sky Moore hype. I need help. I need help with it. But yeah, Brian, I think I'm fine with... Sorry, that was a huge tangent. I am fine with Davante Adams in general, but I do think 10 is a bit high just considering he had everything go his way last year. Quarterback he went to college with. Receivers around him getting hurt. The whole 9 yards. CeeDee Lamb I love. Elite level quarterback with rushing upside in Jalen Hurts. I'll get that every day of the week. Christian Watson, obviously not the most ideal situation, but hindsight's 2020 with the injury. I think he can be fine. You have a wide receiver 1 with a quarterback. He's still younger, but he's a second year at least. ETN should be okay. I keep hearing rumblings of Tank Bigsby, but ETN has enough pass catching upside that I think it'll offset it just fine. Dameon Pierce, good volume guy, but again, the pass catching upside not really there. Raheem Mostert's coming off a career year. Brian, I think Raheem Mostert's value as a 31-year-old running back is going to be about as high as it will ever be again for the next couple of weeks. My advice for you is package up Raheem Mostert with a depth weapon. If you want to go and get another running back, find a tight end needy team if you have a good backup tight end, or a wide receiver needing team. Go Raheem Mostert and a depth wide receiver, and go and get yourself somebody top 10, top 15. Go and get yourself an Aaron Jones. I think if you put Raheem Mostert at his value right now with a decent pass catcher, you can go and get an Aaron Jones level guy. Because Aaron Jones has the stability. Aaron Jones is considered a veteran in a rookie-heavy or younger, youthful offense. I think he's going to be the guy that rights the ship when things are going wrong in Green Bay. And he could be Jordan Love's best friend because he's a pass-catching running back. Dump-off passes are going to give him confidence, that type of thing. Brian says, so weird seeing Gabe Davis rated so low. Thought he had promise last season. Brian, the big thing with Gabe Davis, him and Marquez Valdes-Scantling are very similar prototypes. Gabe Davis catches half of the passes in his direction. when you're being targeted, I feel like anywhere around 60, 65, 70%, if you can catch 60 to 70% of the passes thrown in your direction, you're safe. Gabe Davis is nearly catching just half. But look at the yards per reception. I mean, he's Josh Allen's, screw it, I'm throwing this deep receiver. You're taking a chance there. Gabe Davis is relatively healthy. I actually bought in on him last year a little bit. Had a good week 1. But Gabe Davis is not consistent. And I think the word got out on that. Oh, game log? Question mark? That's fine. I mean, if you look at last year, you'll get a performance like this and 2 in a row. And everyone will want to go to get Gabe Davis. However, this is consistent with who he is. 57 yards per reception in week 5, 24.7 yards per reception in week 6. It's exciting. But he doesn't get targeted a ton, all things considered, where it's catchable. A lot of deep balls. Meaning either he hauls it in and gets you plenty of points in one play, or you get something like this, where those 2 other targets were probably deep balls that didn't find their destination. Or, I'm speaking outside, I'm extrapolating here. But this happens a lot. 3 for 10? I mean, Josh Allen's not exactly an inaccurate quarterback. This is just the deep ball guy. And I think people understand that they're going to get this a lot more often than they're going to get this. I think that's why Gabe Davis is rated so low. He's still up there, but I personally don't go out of my way to get him. I think that's the case there, Brian. I am going to see... I'm not buying Sky Moore. Even Rashee Rice. I mean, definitely some upside from this past week. But then Travis Kelce's going to be back, and we have to ask ourselves, how involved is he really going to be? Let's also understand that week 1 is the craziest time of the year in the NFL. I would take everything that you see this week with a grain of salt. Teams are trying things out. Guys are making their debuts. The psychological aspect of week 1, I feel like, is just different for players as well, but especially for the fantasy market. Literally anything can happen. If I go Raheem Mostert, I just don't have a big name wide receiver, and I need a medium name wide receiver. I need to go out and get somebody like that. If I could get Allen Lazard and Raheem Mostert together, I could probably get the 3rd or 4th worst person on somebody's bench. I'm thinking of just sticking here and kind of letting some of these players do the talking with their matchups. I wish quarterbacks were at more of a demand, but obviously it's only a 12-team league. Let's look at the full scoreboard here. Brian and AJ, nothing yet. Mary with 19.1. I'm on Ross St. Brown. How about it? First touchdown of the 2023 season. He looked great. Consistently around that top 10 mark last season. And actually, by the end of the season, I think he was right at wide receiver 10. He's not going to get a lot of downfield throws, but the volume's there. He could be top 5 in targets for sure. Mahomes, 19.54. Average day at the office. Goff, 14. Pacheco, the pass catching end, bailed him out. I mean, it's not a great day from your running back, but Gibbs, 8. Lack of involvement, but took advantage of his opportunities. I would definitely argue that. Brian says, I remember my other promising players from last year. George Pickens, Gabe Davis. Alec Pierce had a month, Brian. He's getting very involved. The wide receiving core was starting to kind of be ground down. And even so, it's not much in Indianapolis. But Alec Pierce, there was a stint he caught a game winner. I was high on Alec Pierce for a bit. If you go back to one of my videos from, I believe it was like week 7 or 8 last year, we'll find out here. I'll find it. I was very high on Alec Pierce. Extremely. Not a bad year for a rookie. Oh yeah, there's another one. Why is Alec Pierce owned in less? 6.4%. With 41 receptions, 593 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns on 78 targets, 6.4% ownership. I can't get over this. Sky Moore, owned in 85% of leagues. That will go down. Not nearly enough. He's still a big name. People still love him because he's in Kansas City. I mean, Sky Moore was not hurt, ladies and gentlemen. He was playing. You could see he was being targeted here. He lost a fumble here. He played the whole season. But he got targeted like 40% of the time that Alec Pierce did. Had way less output. Didn't score a touchdown until the Super Bowl. I don't get it. I know it's not an ideal offense in Indianapolis, but Alec Pierce had almost 600 yards. It does not make sense to me at all. I refuse to accept it. If you're watching this live stream right now, can you do me and yourself one favor? Stay the heck away from Sky Moore. He hasn't been hurt. There's been nothing wrong with him. He's just not involved. They don't throw him the ball. And the stars aligned yesterday for him to get the ball. Travis Kelce, gone. For the week. Juju Smith-Schuster, gone. So it was MVS, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice. What's the excuse? I'm not going with someone who scored in the double digits in fantasy once last year. I won't do it. And we saw a prime example here. All right, that's my rant. Johnny, good to see you. Corey, buy or sell on a possible DeAndre Swift, Jalen Hurts stack. Swift was still there in the later rounds in my 10 team. Hurts has the rushing upside. Swift has some potential there as well. Swift has the pass catching upside as well. Right, Johnny? So DeAndre Swift was used, the same way that Jahmyr Gibbs will be used this year. And everyone's panicking with Jahmyr Gibbs right now, even though he's by far and away the more efficient running back. He'll be worked more into the offense. I think that a lot of people were making the joke or, were making the assumption that the Lions just hated DeAndre Swift and now he's gone because they wouldn't play him. I mean, the guy was constantly hurt. And they like to do this mix of volume where you have the ground and pound guy and your Jamal Williams or now your David Montgomery to push the ball in those final couple of yards in goal-to-go situations where Jahmyr Gibbs is the pass catcher. Now, in Philadelphia, Johnny, it's interesting because they are so run-heavy, but they also have one of the best offensive lines in the league. And DeAndre Swift is in a running back by committee right now. He's actually one of three. I would say it's him, Rashad Penny, and Kenneth Gainwell, who's been on the team the longest. So, Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift. I'm okay with it, but I hope you have more depth at running back, if that makes sense. Because I'm not sure I want to go out there week one and start DeAndre Swift against the Patriots. A pretty tough front seven led by Matthew Judon. Just because, Johnny, we have so many talking heads, and this is the same reason that Khalil Herbert is being picked as like running back 33 right now. It's the number one rushing offense in the entire league. They ran the ball 60% of the time last year in the Chicago Bears, and they had a bad offensive line. Khalil Herbert was efficient, 5.7 yards a carry. Why wouldn't we want him? Because they went out and got Deontay Foreman. They got somebody out of a Texas backfield who was working hand-in-hand with Bijan Robinson in Roschon Johnson. And the common denominator here between the Eagles and the Bears, the quarterback runs a lot. I feel like Jalen Hurts can actually take away from DeAndre Swift more than most quarterbacks can, Johnny, because not only when he throws is DeAndre Swift sometimes not going to get it, but Jalen Hurts tucks it and runs. I don't think... It depends on what you mean, Johnny, by later rounds. I would take DeAndre Swift right now because of the other talking heads and because of the involvement in the run game in Philadelphia. I'd maybe take him round 7 or 8. I know for a fact he's not going in those rounds. In most leagues. In a 10 team, maybe. In 12s, definitely not. Swift does have pass catching potential. I just would not rely on him as a week 1 starter, Johnny, because there are so many reports out there that I'll show you one right now. I mean, we don't know the backfield of the Eagles. They are they're being obscure on it right now, to be transparent with you. I mean, this is someone, a beat reporter from The Athletic assuming that he would end up being the lead man. Kenneth Gainwell could be the most reliable option because obviously he was on this team last year. Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift were not. This is what concerns me. When somebody is taking the most first-team snaps during training camp, and there's also very stiff competition with Rashad Penny, I love the situation otherwise, right? I love the fact that you're on a run-heavy team. I love the fact that this offensive line is so strong that and so reliable that you can just tell everyone in the world you're going to do a QB sneak and you'll still get the yard you want, right? But there's a lot of competition here, including the rushing quarterback. All things considered, I feel like DeAndre Swift is a walking miracle. He had less than 100 rushing attempts last year. Very involved in the pass. Was bruised up, missed a couple games. It says he played 14. He played in half of a few. Had a lot of games where he had limited snaps, and he still was running back 21. So I have mixed feelings on him, Johnny. I mean, the pass catching upside is there, and that's the one reason I would really want Swift. But I'm not going to go up and spend a 6th round draft pick on DeAndre Swift. Yet. And if you have him, that's fine. I'm just not going to go out of my way to start him if I have better options because we have it right here. DeAndre Swift is in a backfield that is an extensive ladder. It's definitely a committee. He's competing with one of the most efficient backs in the league when he's healthy in Rashad Penny. Kenneth Gainwell is the established guy, and he's getting the majority of the first-team snaps during camp, and Jalen Hurts runs the ball a frickin' lot. It's not my favorite stack, but if he falls to you, sure, I would personally sit back and wait a week before we put Swift in there. Hurts is obviously a quarterback who you're starting every week. Unless he's banged up and facing a tough defense, right? Or unless you doubled up on quarterback and you've got somebody else in the top 5 or 10. That's my take on that, Johnny. Not my favorite stack. If you have it, nice. Let Swift sit back, especially since it's against New England. Not the best matchup in the world. If it comes back to burn us, it comes back to burn us. But we have no answers on this backfield, and the competition is very stiff. Hope that helps. Folks, if you can leave a like, I would greatly appreciate it. Going to try and get to 10 likes on the live stream tonight. We are answering questions regarding the Christian Watson situation, any fantasy football situation. You want me to rate your team after your draft, a certain trade scenario. You've got some overreactions following the Detroit Lions Kansas City Chiefs game that took place yesterday. All is fine. Let's see here. Also, I did throw this on the channel earlier. Not that it really means much, but it kind of means something to me. Playoff percentage. When I drafted this team that was projected to score 22 points in week 1, that's now around 90. And before I made my first trade, which I feel like was a relatively fair one, I gave somebody else a wide receiver 1 for the next couple of weeks and possibly a running back 1 for the next couple of weeks and beyond due to the unstable situations that we have with Jonathan Taylor sitting out / being hurt and Cooper Kupp not knowing what the heck is wrong with his hamstring. So you got Van Jefferson and Zach Moss. I got Raheem Mostert, an injury-prone running back who technically has the RB1 spot. I did that. I went out and got some wide receivers with a decent amount of upside. I got Sam Howell, who has a phenomenal matchup this week and has sneaky rushing upside. And now, I am given a chance to make the playoffs. 1%. That's the glimmer of hope I need before week 1 even starts. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Brian says, really interested with what Tyler Higbee does this week. Brian, I think that Tyler Higbee has the best chance out of anybody on the Rams to do something this week. Yes, there's Van Jefferson, and I think that he definitely has some upside. Tutu Atwell has a high projected score, but obviously not much proven there. But when we look at overall targets given to tight ends last year in a season where Cooper Kupp played half the season, Yes, Sam Laporta and Noah Gray lead the way, just like how we all anticipated. If we go to last year, total targets, fourth in the league was Tyler Higbee, ahead of Pratt Freiermuth, who I absolutely love, who really established some chemistry with Kenny Pickett last year, ahead of Evan Ingram, who was in a high-flying offense that now has another cog in the machine in Calvin Ridley, ahead of Dalton Schultz, ahead of Tyler Conklin, who was Mr. Consistent for a while, ahead of an offense that, honestly, under Kellen Moore this year, might have 5,000 passing yards on Gerald Everett. I mean, Tyler Higbee was in a pretty poor offense last year. If we look at points per game, this team was in the dumps. 18.1 points per game. Yet this tight end in Tyler Higbee had the fourth most amount of targets because Cooper Kupp was out. And it was pretty much the same wide receiving core, Brian. Not much has changed. Still got Van Jefferson. Skowronek is still there. And Ben Skowronek actually had a decent amount, too, of involvement. I'm not denying that at all. But Tyler Higbee was the lead man. 1 out of every 8 snaps he participated in, more often than that, he got a target. That beats everybody here except for Cooper Kupp, obviously, but Skowronek about 1 for every 10, about 1 for every 9.5, about 1 for every 10, 1 for every 8, 1 for every 8, 10. This guy just flat out gets the ball very often. He's been a part of this offense for a long time. I would argue he's a staple of this offense since they won the Super Bowl, or even before that. I think Tyler Higbee's got a lot of upside, and that's somebody I'm definitely taking if he's available in my leagues, but he probably isn't anymore because I think last I checked, the ownership was up to about 80%. But no, I'm very okay with taking a Tyler Higbee. Oh yeah, 88.2%. And it was already up there before. He was a top 10 tight end last year. 4th in targets. I mean, Cooper Kupp was out mid-season. And then look at this output. I don't know what happened against Kansas City, but 15.3 points. We take those. 8.5 in this tight end market. Sadly, we take those. Couple down weeks. Boom. Boom. That's league-winning stuff right there in your championship week. Not great. Not horrible. And even when Cooper Kupp was there, this is your number 2. It's not Van Jefferson. It's not Ben Skowronek. Those are solid options. And Van Jefferson is technically the wide receiver 1 this week, but I would argue Tyler Higbee gets just as much, if not more, output. And this is a team that could definitely lose a lot of games. In the Rams. Got to play the 49ers a couple times. I would argue that the Cardinals are a couple of free wins. Seahawks are tough again with Geno back, and they went out and got JSN. It's going to be a mean 1-2-3 punch with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN. But this is an offense that could be operating from behind a lot. Cooper Kupp is hurt. Don't overthink it. When you're losing in the second half and you're trying to pull some points together, you're going to throw the ball more. When your star wide receiver's out and you have a reliable tight end putting up these numbers, you're going to target him. And they did. Yeah, I'm very high on Tyler Higbee. 100%. 100%. No doubt about it. But yeah, folks, so kind of in summary, Christian Watson out. Jayden Reed, I'm fine with a pickup. A lot of different variables with Jordan Love being the new QB1. We've got to treat him like a rookie, even though it's already his 4th year. He already had to get an extension before he even really took over the starting job. But Jayden Reed, I think, is a nice pickup. Impressed a lot in preseason. Unless you're in Dynasty or a 14, 16-plus team league, would not go out of my way to start him. Same with Luke Musgrave. It's a shallow tight end market, so maybe I am a little more forgiving with you going ahead and starting him. But that is kind of the situation there. I really do believe, especially against the Chicago Bears, in week 1, where this team just wants to make sure they go out and get the win in a bitter rivalry that I will be at, by the way. I will be at Soldier Field on Sunday, so you'll get some pre-produced content. I have another video coming out tomorrow. Don't you worry. But, oh yeah, speaking of which, I have waiver wire pickups coming out tomorrow. So make sure you look out for that. That video should be out sometime early afternoon. I usually put it up around 3 p.m. Central Time, but I'll schedule it way ahead of time. So, folks, I appreciate you stopping into another live stream. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football, and we will see you in the next one.